Nintendo reportedly demoed Switch 2 at Gamescom 2023. Visuals comparable to PS5 and Xbox Series. Series what? If you're not caught up to date, here's what's happened. A few years ago, there was expectations of a Switch Pro releasing. All evidence suggests that a Switch Pro was, in fact, releasing. Nintendo canceled it at the last minute and turned it into the Switch OLED. Now, while statements from Nintendo's higher-ups have suggested it's going to be a few years before new Nintendo hardware will be releasing, these statements are kind of taken out of context. When this dude says the Switch is going to last until 2027, that doesn't mean there's not going to be a new Nintendo platform until 2027. It means, like, they'll still be selling it in 2027. The servers will still be up. Given the declining sales of the Switch right now, it's expected that new hardware will release in 2024. Now, while usually we expect Nintendo to have some sort of brand new device, new gimmick every generation, a lot of people forget that this was more of an Iwata thing, and the Switch was the last piece of hardware Iwata had input on. This era of Nintendo, driven by Iwata and Reggie's Blue Ocean strategy, the desire to create new markets as opposed to compete in existing ones, is just not what Nintendo's probably planning this time around. It would be astonishing if we get anything from Nintendo more than a direct sequel to the Switch. And given the leaks that we've had for a while, it seems like it is that. So let me go regurgitate some news articles, go over some clearly fake leaks, and then at the end of it all, I'll give my opinions on this thing. I don't want to draw this out too long, but apparently Nintendo demoed the Switch 2 to developers at Gamescom. Gasp. One Switch 2 demo is a souped-up version of Switch launch title Zelda Breath of the Wild. Wow. Maybe it has ray tracing. So, yeah. Apparently, the visuals of the Switch 2 are comparable to the PS5 and Xbox Series something or other. It should be noted that visuals and power are two very different things. The Switch 2 was apparently running the Matrix Awakens Unreal Engine 5 tech demo, which sounds incredibly impressive until you consider the Series S also can run that. The big difference here seems to be Nintendo using DLSS. Now, if you don't know what DLSS is, it's a kind of AI upscaling that's been around for a while. DLSS 2 really seemed to break the internet when it launched. You basically have games that look better, and they play better, with faster frame rates, with better frame rates. It's really just a magic technology. Now, I've always assumed that the Switch 2 would use DLSS 2.0, but if it is having visuals comparable to the PS5 and Xbox Series platform, is it impossible that we might not be talking about the DLSS 3? DLSS 3 is a huge boost even upon DLSS 2. It's really reserved for the newest NVIDIA graphics cards, and I'm not saying I necessarily expect the Switch 2 to have DLSS 3, but you would see that kind of performance. DLSS 3 is kind of locked away behind the newest NVIDIA cards, so I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if there's any way that the visuals are going to be comparable to next-gen platforms, I guess current gen at this point, that's how it'd be done. I do trust the sources. I do actually trust the sources saying this. This isn't just some random guy on Twitter or x.com. This is real people who probably don't use Twitter. They probably use Twitter. Does Andy Robinson use Twitter? He does use Twitter. I messaged him once. People made fun of him for saying something. I said, I'm sorry. But that doesn't mean we can't go over some of the other rumors. Is Nintendo working with Google on a VR headset? No. Nintendo fans, Nintendo leakers, especially the bad ones, they have a playbook they go by. It's always the same exact thing. The Nintendo Focus. So you got a name that kind of sounds a little bit Nintendo-y. A little Nintendo-y. Nintendo-re. So they say Mario Kart 9 will be a launch title for the Nintendo Focus. That's pretty cool. That's great. Leaked images of the Switch 2 home screen. If this video gets taken down, that's it, guys. Yeah, that's just a homebrew, isn't it? You probably just got a homebrew for your Switch. Like for one, this Nintendo Focus logo, it's fine. It's fine. That I know you think you're being like clever, like it's a leak, like, oh man, the leaks, it's not just a screenshot of a computer, so it's more legit. But that's just a ceiling fan. That's just a ceiling fan. So there's this dude's Mario Kart 9 logo. I think that this part is actually pretty cool. I don't love how it looks like it's made out of cheese. That looks a little harsh, that shadow does. And then this 9. This is what ruins it. The Mario Kart itself is pretty good, but the 9 this isn't even good visual design. Like, it doesn't, this is at, you know, this sort of 30, 15 degree angle, whatever. This is just kind of flat, just a flat 9 with the Mario Kart 8 logo kind of implied what the gimmick was, but you can't just throw a random 9. It doesn't mesh, and then putting the October 2024 as if like that's something they're already making promotional art for with the Nintendo Focus logo. And this dude, this guy, this logo on the Focus, this thing they keep using right there, yeah, that's not gonna fly. It's not that it is similar to the AMD logo, and that would normally be kind of a joke, just like, haha, it's kind of similar to, but I highly doubt Nvidia was working on this hardware. This is their only console, is going to want anything that even remotely resembles this, their greatest competitor, their biggest competitor's logo. Yeah, and then having the drop shadows on the plus and minus, but not having it on the buttons, that's another, it's fake thing. It's not a bad effort, but there is mistakes in this leak. You're trying. I'll give you credit. You are trying. So according to this dude, we're gonna have a new F-Zero game. F-Zero Titans. Yeah, that's of course it's coming. A new co-op 3D platformer. Assumed to be a couch co-op 3D platformer. ARMS 2, which would be weird because the first ARMS, according to this site, only sold 2.7 million copies. Like that's not coming back. ARMS is not coming back. But here's what I find funny. According to this guy, Nintendo wants $3 per game to make first-party titles backwards compatible. I don't see that happening. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you risk the bad PR for $3? At that point, you might as well sell the games again. You know, like, you just might as well resell the games with a few updates, even small updates. Just making it a $3 update doesn't make any sense from a business perspective, because you're gonna get bad PR anyway. You might as well just sell it for full price. Yeah, this guy, I don't think this guy's legit. What do you say? Oh, launches $429 USD. Yeah, they already have the pricing down. They already got that nailed down, apparently. Controller has a back pedals and a mic on the front of it. Period. That's the other thing. It's always interesting how these Nintendo leakers always sound like they're like 14 years old in the way they talk, you know? The next 3D Mario game will be a 4-player co-op title that's based on 3D World / 3D Land. That may disappoint the Odyssey fans, however, it is what it is. Development on the title started all the way back in 2019. Like, how would one guy know all of this? That's the other thing I think I don't know why video game leakers try this. The only people in Nintendo that know all this information that this guy's throwing out, they'd be pretty high up in the company. They'd be subject to a lot of things. They're not going to be handing it off to somebody who can barely... This guy's talking about Street Pass and Tamagotchi Life fans will be happy, and Nintendo World's coming back, and ARMS 2's coming back. You can basically pinpoint the age of this leaker with that alone. He's very much a 3DS Wii U kid, early Switch kid, probably a kid. This guy claims to know everything going on at Nintendo. We always say, take a huge pinch of salt. It's fake. It's fun, but it's fake, okay? It's fun, but it's fake. Okay, so obviously the Focus stuff, that was pretty silly. any Nintendo VR stuff, in my opinion, is never going to happen, or at least not going to happen for a long, long time. It's such a competitive space that nobody has really broken into quite yet, and those who have are spending a lot of money to keep their position in that market. As for the Switch 2 having visuals on par with current gen platforms, I do think that's a real possibility, but again, visuals don't mean power. Now, this doesn't mean that you'll have the same CPU or the memory will be the same or that all the same games could even run. Remember, we're still dealing with something that will have a lower power draw. Don't expect a portable PlayStation 5 out of this, but we might be getting something more impressive than just a portable PlayStation 4. Where does this leave the Series S or the Series X in the equation? The Series S might be the more affordable option as opposed to the next Nintendo console. Now, I doubt Nintendo is all that concerned about this competition, about any competition. Not from the Series S and not from the Steam Deck or the PC portables. These things are just not in the same markets. They might be the same form factor, but they appeal to completely different audiences. Nintendo platforms are designed for families, younger audiences particularly. Now, that's not to say all Nintendo games are for children, exclusively for children, but that is the main demographic. And little 8-year-old Johnny over here is probably not going to be asking his parents for an ROG Asus Ally tablet thing for Christmas. The big question in my mind is whether Nintendo is going to be capable of recapturing its non-young audience once again. Can Nintendo get the adults? Younger viewers might not remember this, but Nintendo has not always been the massive powerhouse it is today. Before the Wii, Nintendo was, well, it wasn't doing so great. And after the Wii, Nintendo seemed like it was primed to be kings of the next gen. Kind of, not really. The Wii U was a complete disaster, and Nintendo is going to do everything it can to avoid that fate once again. But what if there's nothing they can do? The Switch may have been a fluke. It might have been the right device at the right time when nostalgia was just, well, feeling right. We don't know whether everybody is going to just flock back to Nintendo once this thing's out, whether they're going to drop the $400 to play a few new Nintendo titles. Nintendo doesn't need Nintendo fans to succeed. It doesn't need the people who are already excited about the Switch 2 to succeed. It needs everybody else. And we just don't know whether the average person is going to be all that interested in Nintendo next year and want to return for the Switch 2 because they bought the original. So this whole backwards compatibility debate, whether the Switch 2 will run Switch games, originally stemmed from statements by MVG and also statements by Miyamoto. Now, MVG, who does a lot of development on the Switch platform, has said that any new hardware Nintendo releases not using the Tegra X1 chip would not be capable natively of running those original Switch games. Now, games could receive software updates to play those original games, but that would require some work and time from the original developers. Maybe not a lot of time, maybe not a lot of work, but some. You gotta think though, there's so many games out for the Nintendo Switch that guaranteeing compatibility for all 3,000, 4,000 titles is just not gonna be an option. And as we're seeing, both Nintendo and its partners seem to realize they have an opportunity to double dip. What if they could just resell all the games again? Now, if the power difference between this new hardware is significant enough, then maybe people would be willing to buy the games again. More than 80% of the software sales on Switch are for first-party Nintendo games, so as long as these games are supported, most people that are interested in buying a Switch 2 will not care. They will not care if they can't play Mortal Kombat 11 again. I think if Nintendo had no backwards compatibility option whatsoever, if they asked everybody to rebuy something like Tears of the Kingdom, then yeah, that would be an issue, because you're asking the 100+ million Switch user base to rebuy everything. And maybe they will decide that Nintendo isn't for them anymore. They don't want to risk losing this audience, so it's a balancing act. I can't imagine Nintendo's going to shove in Tegra X1 chips to have native backwards compatibility either, just to give people less incentive to buy new games while also increasing the price for the vast majority of people who will never touch that feature. In terms of anything else, any more Nintendo things, I don't know. You'll get a new Animal Crossing, a new Mario Kart, a new something or other, a Pokemon's or two. So get excited, or don't.